welcome to Tome of Uselessness. I'm Devin.
I'm Dan.
And today we are covering, last
episode, last something.
I think the last episode we put out was Mannequin, right?
I think so as well, yes.
So we thought we would follow up Mannequin with the highly anticipated sequel, Mannequin 2 on the Move. Which is a cinematic masterpiece. But first, Dan, did you like anything this week?
Yeah, I have a bunch of stuff because it's been a little bit since we recorded one of these. I dived into the Invincible comics and I just basically read the beginning part, which was kind of the events of season 1 of the show. And it was really good, enjoyable so far. See what happens with that. I also watched The Boys season 1.
Nice.
Which is also on Prime. Yeah, it was really good. I enjoyed it a lot, and I've heard it was, good. And obviously it got a season 2, so it must be at least decent. And I did like it. And then I also read the comic, The Boys, and basically it turned out like sort of the main conceit's the same, but a huge part of the comic is not in the show. So I was just like, oh, whatever. So I read all 72 issues of the comic.
Nice.
Yeah, and it was really good. It was pretty messed up. The comic is pretty messed. It was put out on the Dynamite label, which is kind of like they kind of license weird stuff all the time and everything like that. But they're kind of more just like there's less kind of like that less Marvel or DC where they're just doing whatever. So like the comic gets pretty graphic and dirty and out there.
Oh.
Because it's not on like a major brand, and it was the brainchild of I can't remember the guy's name now, but the guy who did it, he's written all sorts of stuff like this that is all messed up. So
well, it must have been a nice payday for him to get a Prime show.
Yeah, I think so as well.
That'd be kind of cool to go from like, I don't know, having a comic but not on one of the big.
Well, he's like a super well respected creator and everything. Like if I remembered his name, like he's been in the comic books world forever. He's done like so many good runs of like comics like Superman and blah blah blah, right? So. Oh,
okay. So okay.
Yeah, it's just this one because it was kind of his own original idea and pretty messed up. I guess no one wanted to do it, but these guys were willing to do it.
That is fair.
Yeah. But yeah, it's all about stopping them superheroes. I also managed to pick up Jeff Vandermeer's new book, Hummingbird Salamander. And that's the guy who wrote like Annihilation and all that kind of stuff like that. And
oh, cool.
Yeah, it was good. I didn't think it was as strong as some of his other works, but it was pretty cool in that it takes place in kind of a near future or current present time. But, there's all sorts of weird messed up stuff and terrorism and bio stuff and etc., which is all his kind of alley. Just an interesting, it's written from first person, but it's like past events and it's just all over the map and everything. So
cool.
Yeah, it was a little more structured than some of his other stuff, but I still enjoyed it. A good read. I finished that book, The Company, which I mentioned, I think, last time about the Hudson's Bay Corporation before it was the Hudson's Bay Corporation.
Ooh, that must have been interesting.
Actually, it really was, because it has a lot to do, of course, with how Canada and America got colonized and fur trade way back in the day. And the most hilarious thing about it is when the corporation was first created, they were granted like trade rights. And the language basically was such that they were granted trade rights to like what is currently Canada and America.
Oh.
And they just didn't because they just didn't know how big it was, because they were like, oh yeah, it's it's the Hudson's Bay and etc. But they didn't realize that there was thousands of kilometers of tracts of land. Anyway, which is kind of funny, but it was an interesting read, and it was just kind of very interesting how like the company, they basically made like their employees like swear to secrecy or like sign like an NDA, what equivalent would be, so that people in Europe and the shareholders didn't realize like how much fur was coming out of the country and stuff like that. So all sorts of weird schemes like that. It was kind of interesting.
That is really interesting. So can I go off topic for a little second?
I was just gonna say real quick, the author, if anyone's interested for that, was Stephen Brown, and the book came out in like 2019, I think. That's why it was pretty current. But
Oh, okay,
go
cool.
ahead. Sorry, side tangent. Sure.
This is semi-related, but recently, I'm sure you've heard about it in the news. They found that mass grave of 215 kids from the residential school.
Terrible. Yes.
Terrible. Absolutely terrible. There's lots of places you can donate and stuff like that. And I'm not trying to get political or anything, but the most surprising thing about it was that people, at least in my sphere, didn't seem to know about residential schools.
Sure.
And what happened in them at all. And I was just curious, like, did you learn about it in school? Because I did.
It's hard for me to say because, again, it was a topic I was not very interested in growing up.
Right.
Like Canadian history and stuff like that. So, like, my social studies class, I don't remember pretty much anything from that kind of thing. And obviously, I do recall some stuff related to Indigenous people because they were here first.
Yeah.
But I don't remember too much. I think it was more something I learned later in life.
Oh, because, like, I remember, I wonder if it's because I did French immersion, but I remember learning about residential schools, or it might have been because I grew up in Mission, because Mission was there because there was a residential school.
Right.
And I also remember learning about Japanese internment camps, which people didn't know about that existed in Canada.
No, I definitely knew about those.
I'm sorry to go off topic. When you were talking about like the trade routes and like the fur trade and everything, It just made me think of that because I find it so strange that people find this shocking. Like I didn't know about like the 60s scoop until more recently, but I thought everybody knew about residential schools.
Yeah, to kind of piggyback on what you're saying, what's interesting is in the book, there's basically kind of a turning point. And it's one guy's fault because before this one guy, when the British and whoever were trading in Canada and moving in, they would like work with the Indigenous people because they were the best trappers. And so they would trade with them and like they would marry like, so, into the families and have children and everything like that. But then there was a guy who came over who used to work in the African slave trade who then came over with the whites are superior attitude.
Oh, Jesus.
And then, basically started like screwing everything over and then making it so like because what was happening is like Métis children or mixed children were growing up and working for the company and rising in stature and stuff like that, and then he was like, no, we can't promote any of those people anymore, and basically ruined it.
So fucking gross.
Yeah, it's really gross, and you're like, oh, it's basically this guy's fault.
Do you know who it was?
I don't want to misquote, but I believe it was George Simpson was his name.
Okay.
I think basically there was two guys who were really like high up in the company at the time, and it was like the guy with the slave attitude, and then there was another guy who basically founded what is current day Vancouver in Washington, and he was okay with like he was working with the Indigenous people and with settlers who came, and he was basically helping them set up on the other side of the river from where his trade post was, and he was like, yeah, you guys chill there, we'll chill here, and everything's cool, and then he eventually lost out, essentially, right? But,
ugh.
Yeah, it's basically, it's like you're like, oh, it's one guy's fault. That.
Well, I mean, it's not. I mean, one guy
convinced
people, but like people went along with it too.
Of course, yes, but it was like at the time, especially like these people living in these trade locations for a year, kind of thing, and then like he controlled everything about their lives and etc. Right? So
yeah,
it is bad, of course. And then yes, with the church's involvement and everything.
Yeah,
I mean, that's what's crazy, like you said, with the residential school stories stuff. That it's like we still know that things happen in Africa with the churches and stuff like that, and you're like, dude, it's still bad.
Yeah. Like okay, I won't get into it. This is not that kind of podcast, but
sure.
Sorry, it sparked that. I find it strange that there are people in 2021 who don't know that there were residential, or that Yeah, residential schools until 1996, right? Like,
well, and I think it's like many things in, I could see it being sort of downplayed. Is our history in Canada and America, but it's depressing what was done
oh
to
my
these
God.
people.
Canada's history is so depressing. Like, specifically Canada's history with indigenous people is it's really, yeah, it's bad.
Yeah, it's very depressing. But it was, like I said, that company was an interesting read because there was like journal entries from, the people who initially were finally crossed the Rockies, and then they got into the Pacific Northwest, and they're just like, what is this place? Giant trees, constant rain, giant rivers and everything. Like they just didn't realize like what was going on in North America.
That sounds really interesting. I want to read it now.
Yeah, like I said, I did enjoy it. It was kind of it was interesting. And I guess the last thing I have here, back to a comic book. There was a 2016 Tom King run of The Vision, and I read that.
Nice.
And it was super good. Like I could see why it was, because I've heard about it before and why it was so highly touted. It was basically sort of ties in a little bit with WandaVision, where him and Wanda, I guess in a previous storyline, they broke up, but she gave him a replica of her soul and mind in like a gem. And then so he creates a wife using that gem. And then it's him with 2 children and his wife, and they're just trying to like live in suburbia DC somewhere.
Ooh, that sounds cool.
Yeah, it's really good. I very much enjoyed it, and because it goes wrong and etc.
I think Loki starts this week.
Well, yes, coming up. It starts on the 9th.
On the 9th, yeah. Ooh, that's exciting.
Yes, I am also excited for that. But that's all I got. Sorry, big long list. What about yourself, Devin? Anything you want to highlight?
So I'm in school right now, so I'm mostly doing schoolwork and regular work. But I did watch Dr. Parnassus's Imaginarium. Do you remember that movie?
I was about to say that's an older one, right? Was that the one with Heath Ledger, his last role?
Yeah, so came out in 2009. It's a Terry Gilliam movie, and it was Heath Ledger's last role. So part of the movie, without spoiling too much, part of the movie takes place in the real world, and part of the movie takes place in the Imaginarium. So their workaround for not having enough Heath Ledger footage was to use different actors in the Imaginarium. So Johnny Depp plays Heath Ledger's role, Jude Law, and Colin Farrell. Colin Farrell.
Yeah, all I remember as well was that there was Heath Ledger and then a myriad of actors, but I didn't realize they were all playing the same character.
Yeah, they were all playing the same character, and like I remember people thinking the movie was confusing. It wasn't that confusing, but I think it suffered from using too many special effects that don't age very well, and I feel like a fix for it, a really simple fix that would have made the movie, in my eyes, just much better, would be to animate the sequences inside the Imaginarium. And like you could use different styles. You could do that cool like flat 2D look, kind of like the opening credits to Good Omens. That would have been really cool and gone with the feel of the movie. Right. But as it is, it's kind of mediocre, and it does feel a little bit unfinished.
Yeah, it's a bummer.
Yeah, it's like it's okay, but I kind of also think, do you remember, you saw The Brothers Grimm, right?
Yes, with Matt Damon and Heath Ledger, right?
Yeah, so that's also a Terry Gilliam film. That came out right before this one.
Right. And
kind of like prior to that, Terry Gilliam made some really excellent movies like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas and 12 Monkeys and The Adventures of Baron Munchausen, Brazil, Time Bandits. Like those are all Terry Gilliam films, right? Mm-hmm. Which he like originally came from Monty Python.
Yep.
But between Fear and Loathing and The Brothers Grimm, he was trying to make a movie about Don Quixote, which he eventually did make in a different Way with Adam Driver in 2000 and something. I want to say 2015.
Yeah, I've heard about this and how, yeah, it took like a decade for this project to happen.
Yeah, because he was originally trying to do it with Johnny Depp as like a time traveling Don Quixote, but like everything went wrong from like financing to actors not showing up to like flooding and stuff. And I think it kind of like shook his game a bit because Brothers Grimm and Dr. Parnassus are just, they're not as good as his other movies by a long stretch.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Well, and it's interesting that you said that with the potentially animating a sequence of it, that it's like maybe no one thought about it because, again, they were like, well, adults won't enjoy an animated aspect to a movie. But this was, again, in 2009-ish, like you said, that like adult animation is big, right? Like,
Totally.
If you did that, people would not balk or blink an eye at that. They'd be like, oh, cool.
Yeah, and I like it was post Kill Bill, so I think he could have made a case for it based on like the cool anime sequence in Kill Bill Volume 1.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if they didn't think of it or if they really wanted to use the special effects, but it makes it feel very unfinished, and it's not unenjoyable, like it's watchable, and it's better than the movie we're reviewing today. But overall, it was like kind of disappointing because it's like there's cool concepts and there's cool visuals, mm-hmm. especially in like the real world, because they kind of have like a traveling like vaudeville-esque show where they have cool costumes and stuff like that. But overall, nothing is fleshed out enough to be that interesting.
Well, or maybe like it could be a situation where maybe they went to try to get more financing and were denied so that they couldn't finish things like you said, or maybe polish it up more. And they were like, well, this is what we got.
Yeah, it's interesting. You're probably on the right path because there's like big actors in it, like Johnny Depp, and, I named a bunch of them.
Yeah.
Christopher Plummer stars in it. Tom Waits is in it.
Wow.
But when you watch the opening credit scene, it's like 15 production companies that I've never heard of.
Oh, right.
So it's like, ooh, someone either like he couldn't, like he like kept losing money from one of them and had to go to another one, or it had to be like a pool of them or something. Like something happened
Sure.
there.
Yeah, like everybody was like in for a bunch, and then they're like, well, we're gonna pull out, but okay, we'll leave you with 50% of what we said, and then so they'd go someone else and be like, we need more. Yeah.
So yeah. Anyways, that's my little rant about Dr. Parnassus's Imaginarium.
Fair enough.
Probably doesn't help that the title is hard to say too.
Sure.
They should have picked like I don't know, Imagination Land.
Well, or just you could have called it, just like Imaginarium or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's it. That's all that I've seen. I didn't really like it, but I put it in here anyways.
Fair enough. Yeah. Aside from, like you said, Mannequin on the Move.
Yeah. So, Dan.
From 1991.
Mannequin on the Move. They really don't make them like this anymore, do they?
I don't know. I mean, there's still some sequels that are just pure cash grab.
Oh God, I don't even know where to begin with. Okay, how about this? Did you enjoy it?
Overall, no, but there are some aspects that I liked, but I'll say this from the start. I'll give them credit that they came up with another concept of why there's a frozen woman.
Okay.
Like there's another reason why it wasn't the same thing of, a different time and it's a different woman who wants her spirit to continue or something like that. I'm not saying it was a great idea what they did, but they at least did something different.
Yeah, they did do something different. I will agree with that.
Yeah. That's like, I mean, it's like credit. They came up with something different. Which in this case it's a necklace with a curse. But
mm-hmm.
At least I was like, okay, it's different. Fine. But then it's the same city, because then we got Meshach Taylor back for Hollywood, same store.
Yeah, same store. It took me a minute to figure that out, that it was the same store.
Yeah, because we don't have our return characters, like Estelle Getty's not there anymore.
Yeah, no James Spader, so already, fuck this movie.
Sure.
No Kim Cattrall.
Yeah.
No whoever Jonathan Switcher was.
I don't remember his name either.
Andrew?
Possibly.
Garfield? No?
I don't remember.
Yeah. Okay, so this movie, I didn't enjoy it in a, like, this is a good movie way, but it did have a lot of scenes where I was like, what the fuck is going on with this movie?
Sure, and I mean, that's the entire movie practically.
Yeah, like, from the opening credits to the closing credits, that was my frame of mind.
Kept you engaged.
Yeah. Oh, I was really happy that the song from Mannequin 1 was in the end credits of Mannequin 2.
Yeah, it was surprising that they were able to secure that same song. But I guess, I don't know, it's like Journey from ages ago, so...
It's not Journey, it's Starship.
Starship, sorry. My bad. Wrong one.
Yeah.
But that's what I mean. So it was like, maybe it wasn't that expensive.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that movie, like, 87 to 91, that's 5 years, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. 5-year-old song. They got it in a discount. Dan, did you look up who wrote this movie?
I did.
Did you notice that there are 5 fucking writers for this movie?
I did indeed notice that.
And somehow this is the best that they could come up with.
Well, and I have some notes here further down, but yeah, 5 screenwriters, and there are major holes in the movie in logic that are like internal logic, not even just outside logic of just like, okay, there's a mannequin coming to life, but like internally.
Yeah. But one of them, the one who wrote and directed Mannequin 1, I believe, did go on to make A Kid in King Arthur's Court, so...
Nice. I figured they put his name in there just because he has to get a created character. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. I don't think he had that much to do with it, but I did look him up, and I'm like, he also did A Kid in King Arthur's Court. What a legacy.
Yeah. But I mean, just like I said, I mean, like there's 4 potentially of them working on this script, and this is what you got at the end.
I guess, should we go over the plot first, or should I tell you everything that I hated about it?
Well, I mean, we could do some plot stuff, sure.
Okay, before I get into it, there is one point that I want to make.
Okay.
There's a YouTuber, I believe it's the Pop Culture Detective, who coined a phrase and made a video called Born Sexy Yesterday as a trope for, like, women who are fully grown but have no life experience and are very sexy and end up falling in love with the first dude they see. Yeah,
we spoke about it in the previous Mannequin episode, and I wrote it down because I wanted to bring it up in this episode.
Yeah, and so, like, the first, like, Mannequin did a really good job of not falling into that trope.
Absolutely.
And Mannequin 2 is that trope.
Absolutely, it is.
And I feel like if you forget everything else that is done with this movie, like, that makes this movie inferior to me right off the bat.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't like the trope. And everything that...
No, it's interesting because, like I said, I wrote it down because I was thinking about that as well while watching it. I was like, this is the embodiment of what Devin was talking about last time.
Yeah!
and I was just like, wow, it's really... I don't know if the word is degrading, but it's just like how convenience and fish out of watery it is, but in a lazy way.
It's very lazy, yeah. And, like, Kim Cattrall in The Mannequin, like we were saying before, she's like a fully formed character. She has hopes and dreams. She has thoughts.
She's got skills.
She has skills. It doesn't pass the Bechdel test. Not that I put a lot of stock in the Bechdel test, but she doesn't speak to any other woman. Basically, she just speaks to Jonathan Switcher. But she's at least like a real character.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, if you could run into that person on the street and have a conversation, and they stripped the mannequin in Mannequin 2 of all of that and made her basically a mannequin that could move.
And also, so but the mannequin doesn't look like her.
Oh, I know.
That was kind of my main thing. I was like, this mannequin doesn't look like Kristy Swanson. But then later in the movie, when there's a Hollywood and a Terry Kaiser mannequin, they look like them. And I was like, what happened with the main mannequin?
They couldn't get one. they were like, you know what? If we just pick a pretty blonde girl, no one's going to notice.
Right, I guess, yeah. But, again, it was Mannequin 1. The mannequin looked mostly like Kim Cattrall.
Yeah, it did look like Kim Cattrall.
This one did not. And I was just like, that's just weird.
Yeah.
Maybe and also,
she was supposed to be made of wood. Yeah,
that's true. She is made of wood. But I was going to say also, and I think it's, style at the time or something like that. But and this is probably a weird comment, I'm not a fan of her hair.
Oh, no, that was the style of the time, and I don't blame you.
Okay. I was hoping it was not just me.
You know what I liked is I guess we'll get to it in the plot.
Sure.
But when she's back in the olden times, she has a gold lame cloak.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, when we were watching it, I'm like, because there's scene setting, like, I guess, like, medieval Europe.
Yeah.
And when you watch it, you're like, all of these costumes look so bad. Like, nothing, like, it looks like they raided a Spirit of Halloween. We're like, here you go, actors. and then Peter pointed out, because he was also, my brother Peter was watching it with me, and he's like, yeah, people didn't know how to make proper fantasy costumes until Lord of the Rings. And I'm like, you know what? I buy it.
Yeah, that's fair. It's also like this opening goes on for like 8 minutes versus the first one in Mannequin where it's like 2 minutes.
Yeah, 2 minutes, including the animated credit sequence.
Yeah. Yeah, because I was watching it, I was like, this just keeps going.
Yeah, when I was watching it, also, I'm just like, what the fuck? What the fuck? I guess we should get into the plot so people know what we're talking about.
Yeah, I was about to say, yes, our opening, we're introduced to Kristy Swanson. She's a peasant girl, and our William Ragsdale, Jason Williamson eventually in the future, but he's the local prince.
Yes, and they are in love.
And they want to go get married, but the queen doesn't like this.
So she gets her wizard, who has a mole with a very long hair on it for some fucking reason.
Because comedy, clearly.
Anyways, he puts a cursed necklace on her, and she turns into a wooden mannequin, and for 1,000 years she will remain a mannequin until her true love takes the necklace off.
No, so it's an or. It's 1,000 years, or her true love from another land can take the necklace off.
Oh. But
yeah, because that's the main thing here, is that's what Terry Kaiser's plan is all the whole time, because he's like, I calculated when 1,000 years is up, so I'll be able to get the necklace. But unbeknownst to him, our man Jason is the true love, so he's actually just able to take it off.
Okay, I wasn't paying that close of attention.
Right. So because immediately after she turns to a statue, he tries to take it off, but he gets electrocuted, and it's like, okay, so like, this is what the curse is.
Gotcha. And then we flash forward almost 1,000 years, and she's a exhibit in the castle tour.
Yeah, basically, they're like, yeah, here's this woman, and that's what's so weird about it too, because then they're just like, yeah, there's a peasant girl here, and she's wearing the necklace still, of course, and so you're like, wait, no one else has tried to take the necklace off, like, and realize that there's an actual magical curse.
Nope.
Yeah, they just leave her there, blam.
And she's gonna go on tour, and the first spot on her tour is Prince and Co. Department store for some fucking reason.
In Philadelphia.
In Philadelphia, yeah.
Yeah.
Also, did it bother you that they didn't use the same store?
They didn't?
Well, if they did, it looked very different from the store in Mannequin 1.
I thought I was reading in the IMDb trivia that they did film in the same location, but maybe I was confused. Maybe they meant another location.
No, maybe you're right. It looked so different to me. It must have been different locations in the same store.
Right.
Because it didn't look like the same store at all to me.
Well, maybe they just dressed it up differently, because if I recall from the Mannequin 1, like that store wasn't a store. It was like something else.
What? Like in movie?
Yeah. No. I mean, in real life.
Like it was like a soundstage, right?
Yeah. No. It's not a soundstage, but it's like a building that does something else. It's not an actual department store.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So they dressed it as a department store for the movie, and I think they went back to do it again for the second.
It just looked very different to me.
Sure. I mean, it was lit differently, and we didn't get to see the same locations and stuff. I don't know. Again, I could be wrong.
Where was the cruise ship department?
Exactly. Well, they replaced it with the department that Kaiser gets a crossbow from suddenly.
Oh, right, and a suit of armor.
Yeah, exactly. And his 3 dudes get 80s workout gear.
Oh my god. Oh, we're skipping ahead, but I do have to say that every time those 3 dudes were the highlight of the movie for me. And the one of them, I think, might have been the one. I think it was the one with like the pink tank top. Anyways, one of them is wearing spandex bottoms.
Yeah.
And it's like you can just see his like dick print anytime they're shooting him from the waist down, which once you notice is like all the fucking time.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, there's his dick.
Yeah. But yes, like Devin said, we flash forward. We got our guy Jason starting a new job at the store. You know, it's Prince and Co. We get there. We meet our sort of bad guy, Mr. James, played by Stuart Pankin, and he fires Hollywood's assistant, so he makes Jason Hollywood's assistant.
Okay, I want to ask you a very important question.
Yeah.
Do you think this movie would have been any different if that character was not in the movie? Not Hollywood, Mr. James.
Yeah, I assumed you meant Mr. James.
I feel like they could have made almost the exact same movie without him in it.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, he's just there to deliver some exposition here and there and just to be like semi-antagonistic.
Yeah.
But not really.
There are a few characters like that. Like the security guard didn't matter to the movie. The perfume girl, she could have been out of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't even like a B plot. It was like a F plot.
Well, and it's funny because like every character essentially is trying to find love, apparently.
Yeah. So after what's the main character's name again? The dude?
Jason Williamson.
So Jason Williams becomes Hollywood's assistant, and that's when we meet the thirsty perfume girl who's trying to get in Jason's pants, but he's like, no, let's take it slow. And then we also meet the security guard who is like a dollar store Rick Moranis. And he's in love with the perfume girl, and he keeps doing stuff for her, like buying her insurance for some fucking reason.
Well, she rejected that. He wanted to do that.
Oh, right. Okay. But she doesn't like him back. And they are both in the movie for unknown reasons.
Well, yeah. Again, you need some You need some characters in there.
Yeah, so Hollywood and Jason have Hollywood gets a message that the truck that the mannequin is on is in an accident, and Jason and Hollywood drive out there to help.
Basically, yeah.
And then, for whatever reason, these three German dudes were driving a truck, and I didn't understand how they got in the accident, but it was told in a way that they were stupid, right?
Basically, they say that there was like a sign that said keep right, and the guy's like, yeah, but then the bridge ends and you gotta like get on, and so they just didn't do that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, Semi drove off the bridge, and they stay in the container, and for some reason he's like, yeah, hoist it up, and then they start hoisting it, and it just empties out into the river.
Yeah, because the mannequin, their super sacred, cursed peasant girl mannequin that is a national treasure, was not in a box or any sort of protective covering. She was just loose in the cargo truck.
Nor was she secured by a strap.
Yeah, she was just hanging out in the back of it. And she falls into the river, and Jason thinks it's a real girl, so he jumps in after her. And then she is kind of real underwater for a second, and then he brings her out of the water, and she's like a mannequin, and then he's like, oh, shoot, it was a mannequin.
Basically, he's like, oh, I thought it was real, or a real person when I jumped in.
So then him and Hollywood bring her back in Hollywood's convertible because, you know, they could only hire Hollywood and his car from the first movie.
Yeah.
And they go back to the department store, and the three German guys follow them by stripping down to their underwear and dancing in the middle of the street until a garbage truck driven by two women pick them up in the garbage part and dump them into the back of the truck for some reason.
Yeah. Yeah, what you just described definitely happens in the movie. And like you said, it's like it doesn't make sense. You're like, okay, I kind of get it. It's comical. They're dancing to like attract a ride. And then they get in the thing and you're like, okay, that makes perfect sense. And then the other one's just like, oh yeah, just dump them in the trash. And it's like, what? Why would you do that?
I did look up there's the lady that was driving the truck is actually a pretty well-known stunt actor.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was looking up, I don't know, to see who was in the movie and stuff.
Yeah.
What else they'd done. And she came up really early on in like the cast for some reason.
Well, it's early in the movie.
Yeah. Anyways, so she is actually a cool stunt woman. So that's something.
That's hilarious.
It's all a blur. Then they get back to the department store, and Hollywood goes off somewhere, and Jason's a fucking creep and like starts creeping on this mannequin.
Well, basically, yeah, because before they drove to the crash site, Hollywood tells him about the legend, and he's like, yeah, supposedly she was alive, and etc. And then yeah, he's all like kisses her to be like, maybe the kiss will wake her up or anything like that, which of course nothing happens.
But he is able to take off her necklace, and then she comes alive.
Yes.
And they leave together. After
he freaks out. What? Sorry?
Oh. Said after they steal her address.
Yeah, I mean, he freaks out, of course, initially, and she's all like, hey, it's you, because it's the same actor, and he's like, I'm not who you think I am, kind of thing.
And she's like, don't worry about it, we're in love.
Basically, that's what makes it kind of weird, is that to her, yeah, she's like immediately in love with him because she's like, you're the same guy.
And I love that she has an American accent. Anyways, they go out for Philly cheesesteaks.
Yeah.
And that's where we get the best line in the whole movie.
Your favorite, I assume.
Yeah, where we're driving around in a Jeep, and she goes, hang on, I gotta look it up what she says exactly, because it's pure poetry.
Yeah.
I did text it to you.
You did indeed text it to me.
She goes, standing up in his Jeep as they're driving around Philadelphia, she goes, I love cars. I love electricity. I love America. The best line. I want that on a t-shirt. or like embroidered on a pillow.
Right, yeah. Or I would say, yeah, like one of those circles or whatever.
Circles?
You know, when people do the embroidery on the thing instead of like a pillow.
Yeah. Cross stitch.
Cross stitch, that's the word, yes.
Yeah. Maybe I'll get it as a tattoo. A fucking script tattoo on my arm.
But yeah, so they have this night out. They eventually end up in this club where we have Meshach Taylor playing the doorman, and he's just like improving reasons to let people in or not.
Yeah, that was pretty great.
Yeah. And they get let into the club randomly as they're just walking by. They're not even in line. And he's just like, hey.
He's like, this is the most exclusive club. And then he's like, hey, you guys can come in.
Yeah. Because you're the main characters.
Yeah. I also really enjoyed that they danced, and he was dancing like, I don't know, like a meth head.
Yeah.
And then she's like, that's not dancing, this is dancing. And she starts doing like, I don't know, a Renaissance-y dance. And then everybody in the club joins in.
Yeah. And it's funny. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, I also really appreciated the two background characters that were wearing matching outfits with matching red wigs.
Yeah. No, I didn't notice them on my first watch, but I noticed them on the second watch, and I was like, nice.
Like, I want their movie. That sounds more interesting.
Yeah. And I was gonna say, what's funny about them when she starts doing the traditional dancing style, it like cuts in over the soundtrack with, you know, some harpsichordish whatever type music, but it's presumably still like dance club music going on.
Yeah.
So they're not in sync at all. And I was like, wait, they
like Mr. Lover Lover by Shaggy.
Yeah, and I was like, now they're just looking like they're crazy. But eventually they end up back at his place because he's like, you know, you need somewhere to stay. That's fine. And we get Mr. James. He's there at his mom's house because she runs a video dating service. And in a comical scene, he tries to hide who he is, and then he just bails out when he realizes that Jason lives there as well.
Again, a scene not needed in this movie.
Absolutely.
And yeah, so then in the morning, she puts first there's like a scene with his mom's like, oh, did you bang someone last night? And he's like, Mom,
yeah,
respect my privacy. And then the mannequin puts the necklace back on, and she turns into a mannequin again. And then it makes it look like he's using her as a real girl, and his mom walks in and is disappointed in him.
Yeah, but because of course it's comical because one, to me anyway, like he doesn't twig that it's the necklace because she wasn't wearing it and now she is wearing it. But then when the mom was like, who's that in the washroom? It's like you heard a woman in there.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, maybe the doll was there, but then there was supposedly someone in your house at one point, you know?
He was just like puppeteering her.
Yeah, while he was downstairs making breakfast.
Oh my God, the scene of him making breakfast made me cringe so hard. I hated every minute of that. He's like vacuuming the seeds of a cantaloupe with a dustbuster. He's like, he like strained, like cracked eggs into a strainer and then and he put sausages in a toaster. And he put like concentrated orange juice in the microwave. It was
maximum quirky, Devin.
Honestly, I was just anxious watching it, and I hated every minute of that scene.
Yeah, he is maximum quirky.
He is the manic pixie dream boy.
Basically, yeah. I guess there was something we didn't mention. There was a scene previous to this, but Terry Kaiser's character, Count Spretzel, arrives in America, and we sort of get hints that his plan, because his plan doesn't totally make sense to me.
Nothing in this fucking movie makes sense.
I mean, okay, his plan is, I kind of get it that he's like, okay, when we're doing the tour, it'll be the 1,000 years, and we'll be able to get the necklace, and we have the other jewels, supposedly, and we're out of the country, and we're gonna go to Bermuda. And I'm like, okay, but then he's also like, the peasant girl is gonna wake up and be in love with me, and I was like, what?
Based on fucking what, dude?
That's exactly that. I was like, okay, maybe the story that the ancestors passed along got changed at some point, that they're like, yeah, and then the peasant girl will like be in love with you, bro. Where it's like, your ancestor was the one who put the curse on her, guy. And you look like him.
Like a lot.
Yeah. And time hasn't passed to her. She won't be into you at all, man.
I was very confused. I couldn't tell if he was the same wizard or if it was his descendant.
I assume he played both parts, but maybe I'm wrong about that.
No, because I remember him saying like it was my great 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 grandfather or something.
Yeah.
But then he also just played it like he was the same person.
Yeah.
So I don't know. This movie's dumb. Anyways, then James Williams, or whatever the fuck his name is, decides to take the mannequin to a coffee shop.
Yeah, because he's all like, I'm existential crisising here, and I'm just at a coffee shop. It's like a 2-second scene, but they go back to the store is the main thing.
Yeah. And then back at the store, he doesn't tell Hollywood what happened, and he's sad.
Yeah.
And also, I think the Count shows up, and he's like, why did you put her in this stupid, ugly dress?
Yes.
Yeah. That's also a thing that happens. And then he's mad about it. And then he's creepy to the mannequin. And then the 3 German dudes, or himbos. Oh, and then Hollywood takes the necklace off of the mannequin. But she still pretends to be a mannequin. And then he puts it on himself and becomes a mannequin.
Yes. This is where it gets into it doesn't make sense territory.
Nothing in this movie makes sense. So then she grabs James's coat. And I just want to say on a side note, I really like the look of a mini dress with an oversized leather jacket. I think that's very cute.
Yeah, it's a great look on her.
Yeah. And she goes up and buys a bunch of furniture on his company card.
Yeah, that furniture guy is a scumbag, by the way.
Oh my God, 100%. She's like, I might be gone tomorrow. And he's like, well, then we better deliver your furniture today.
Yeah, and as well as it's like, she's got his card, but like it doesn't have his signature to authorize the purchases and stuff. And I'm just like,
oh, well. It was
this guy's
the
forging
early
some
90s.
paperwork.
I think you could just do that back then.
Yeah, I was like, this guy's forging some paperwork here.
Yeah, totally. And then she also gets a makeover, which, okay, here, I have a little bit of beef with the movie.
Okay.
It's the whole movie, but specifically...
yeah.
This scene. So in Mannequin 1, we have a lot of montages of them dressing up and having fun and being silly together.
Yes.
But it's in a, like, the department store is empty. They're going to redo the window. It kind of makes sense in that movie, right? And it's kind of like a silly, quirky, wholesome thing, right? Like, what are we going to do? We're in the store together. Only I can see you alive. Oh, let's play dress up, right? Mm-hmm. There's no point to have that same montage in this movie.
Well, she's like, hey, she's running away from the himbos, so she's like, I need a different look. And then they're like, all right, we'll hook you up. And then that's when it starts in the montage.
But then all the looks are like inappropriate for everyday wear. They're all like formal wear and formal hair. You know what I mean? Like if she was trying on a bunch of like more casual clothes, but like in different silly styles, like, oh, this one's like kind of punk and this one's kind of sporty, and you know, that would make sense to me and I would accept it. But the fact that she's just trying on formal wear is very stupid.
Yeah, that was going to be my problem with the trying on clothes montage is that it's like 3 or 4 dresses that are all evening wear dresses and then like 20 different hats.
Yeah.
With those same dresses. It's not even, like you said, it's not even a different outfit of some kind. And I was just like, it's obviously inferior. And then the look she goes with at the end is not even one that was in the montage.
Yep. So dumb.
But yeah, I was like, this is a disappointing montage because it's mostly just her with hats.
Yeah, they could have done like I said, coming out of the change room and like, oh, this one's kind of punk. Oh, this one's sporty. Oh, this one's like more conservative. And then she kind of comes out with one that kind of suits her bubbly personality. And I would have been like, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
I accept that. But instead, it was like, here's 2 formal dresses and 75 hats.
Yeah.
And this also leads to the stupidest part of the movie. Or maybe the second stupidest part of the movie, because the final showdown might be the stupidest part of the movie. I don't know, Dan. Which part of the movie do you think is stupider?
Well, I don't know. I was saying, were you about to reference where Terry Kaiser gets a crossbow somewhere and starts trying to shoot it at people?
Yes.
Okay. Because that was pretty stupid.
Okay, so she is getting a makeover because the 3 German himbos are after her.
Yeah.
She gets a makeover, and we start a chase scene where, like, the himbos are chasing her. Jason and Hollywood are searching for her, and the Count is trying to kill Jason and Hollywood.
Yeah, because he realizes that Jason is the reanimation of her true love, and so that's how things are going on. So he has a crossbow and just starts trying to crossbow him in the store.
Yeah, from like 3 floors up, he's trying to crossbow him, and he has a terrible aim. And then he's throwing pots at him. Jessie, the mannequin, hops into like a child's like car, like
got a go-kart.
Like a go-kart kind of.
Yeah. Has no idea how to mechanically operate anything. Although, I guess, to be fair, she was in his Jeep earlier in the movie.
Yeah, she's just a real fast learner.
Yeah.
So she gets in the car and drives through the department store. Jason's with her for a bit, and then they get out on the street, and I guess she doesn't know how to stop. So she just drives away.
Yeah, and she drives all the way to his house.
She drives all the way to his house, and then he also gets to his house, but I don't remember how.
Yeah, again, he just, like, gets in his Jeep and drives there.
Okay. So he goes there, and then Hollywood and a bunch of cops and Mr. What's the useless character's name again?
Oh, Mr. James?
Mr. James. And
well, just before that, if I can just say real quick.
Oh, yeah.
Hollywood's, like, gonna leave, and the Count Spretzel's like, hey, we should follow Hollywood because he seems to know what's going on with Jason. But then you see the shot of them coming down the street, and Hollywood's driving his car, and there's like cops with lights on behind him, and I'm like, why would Hollywood drive to his house then?
I don't know.
He could lead them astray or something. Because then, yeah, like you said, like the cops and Mr. James and all of them show up at his house.
Yeah, so James, the main character, goes upstairs. It's very confusing having a character named James and a character named Mr. James.
Well, our main character is Jason.
Oh. Yeah, it's still confusing. It's probably because I was not emotionally invested in this movie at all.
Sorry, yes. But here was one of my main problems is that he goes up to his room and she's in there, Jessie, and she's watching like dating videos and she's like, hey, your mom like gave me these videos of people's lives. And then coming up again when she comes downstairs as a mannequin, his mom's like, he was talking to a mannequin. It's like, wait, you met a woman.
You too, bitch.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're gonna run away together, but then like the cops show up, so he gets arrested. The Count puts the necklace back on the mannequin, turning her into a mannequin, and they take her. He's gonna just fucking run off with her, But then Mr. James is like, we have a contract, so you have to come back to the store because apparently we're going to do a big song and dance number at a department store to celebrate a stupid fucking cursed peasant girl that no one in America seems to know about, but it's a really big fucking deal for some reason.
Yeah, they're going to do a presentation.
Yeah, so Jason goes to jail. Everybody else goes to the department store, except for Hollywood and Jason's mom, who are holding each other, and then Hollywood's like, oh, I'm stuck holding the bag again, and then she gets annoyed with him.
It was a good joke. I mean, you can't deny that. It was a good joke.
I had to point out the good joke.
Yeah, it was a good joke.
It's not as good as I love cars, I love electricity, I love America, though.
Yeah, it was a good joke. Good joke.
So then,
but yeah, like I said, I just had a problem with that where I was like, you met her, you spoke with her, and you gave her popcorn and videotapes, and then now you're like, there was never a woman up there.
Listen, here is the in-universe explanation.
Okay.
Jason's mom does a lot of Valium, and she doesn't know it's real anymore.
Yeah, fair enough.
Hollywood dresses up like a military high-up to get Jason out of prison.
Yeah.
And it kind of works, but they also kind of run away, and they get in Hollywood's car, and Jason's mom's like, what have I always told you? Keep your head down when the police are after you.
And they somehow just get away in this inconspicuous pink Cadillac.
But also what the fuck is Jason's mom doing? How did she get this dating video empire? What shady shit has she been up to? That's a movie I want to watch.
Fair enough.
So they get to the department store, and they're about to do the big presentation, which... Oh, can I just mention a side note?
Sure.
Were you very confused with all the random, slow zooms that this movie had?
I was more confused with this movie has an excess in, music cues for no reason, as well as it even has a flashback scene, and I'm like, this movie is already, not very confusing and short, and you have to include a flashback?
Yeah, and also, who was the Count talking to on the phone?
Well, that was, just before the previous chase sequence, he was talking to the Queen.
Does the Queen know what's going on?
Well, she seems to suspect because she's like, I didn't want the peasant girl to leave and my jewels are missing. And she's like, I'm going to get you type thing. And then he just hangs up the phone and it's over.
Okay.
And this was also my problem with the movie before we get to the main conclusion here is that the Count was shooting a crossbow at some people in a store as well as dropping pots on them. And then he's not in any kind of trouble.
No, he's got diplomatic immunity.
I don't think he comes from a very small country or / kingdom that I don't think would have diplomatic abilities in America.
They were dazzled by his trio of himbos muscles.
That's fair. I mean, they are quite dazzling.
Did you notice that one of them, his shirt just had holes cut out where his abs were, so you could see his abs?
Well, yeah, and one of them, it's his shirt. Maybe it's the same one, or no, it's it was cut with an M pattern, the bottom of the shirt.
Yeah.
It was not a complete shirt. I've seen that kind of shirt on for a women's kind of thing, a very punk-esque look or whatever. But that was is that workout gear, bro?
Also, how come they had those thin bands tied around their biceps that had a little tail down the back?
I mean, that's very the 80s.
But why? What does that do?
Shows off the muscles.
Also, one of them had an earring that was just a feather, but it wasn't a nice feather. It looked like he fucking picked it up off the ground and shoved it through his ear hole.
So pretty good costuming is what you're saying.
Yeah, I loved it. Obviously.
Yeah.
I did appreciate Jason's look. He seemed to wear like jeans with a white button-up business shirt, a tie, and a leather jacket. That was his like.
That was definitely a signature.
Yeah, his signature. Okay, let's get to the presentation because.
Yeah. So we get to the presentation, and nothing makes sense.
Nothing makes sense. First of all, what was the budget for this presentation? Second of all, in real time, because like this isn't a dream sequence and magic in this form doesn't exist in this universe, but the dancers' clothes just change after they get dipped by a dude.
Yeah, I couldn't remember that at the first, because the first time I watched it, I was like, wait, did that just happen? And the second time, I was like, okay, they just edit, and then the women go from wearing Renaissance type clothes to like fly girl outfits.
Yeah, and the stage goes from like a kind of looking like a faux castle to like just like all of the 80s threw up on it.
And then we get Hollywood doing a rap, sort of.
Yeah, Hollywood doing a rap, and there's like, I don't know. And then they bring out the mannequin on a fucking spaceship for some reason.
Yeah, which doesn't make any sense. It doesn't. I mean, that must have just been a prop that they had from another movie, because like, why would this statue have to be unveiled in this method?
Yeah, it's so stupid. And then their big plan is that Jason is going to play the part of the prince, and he like swings in on a rope and he's gonna free her, but then the count stops him, so then they have a sword fight, and the count kind of loses because Hollywood's playing all sorts of like dirty tricks with the stage stuff effects.
The stage fuse box.
Yeah. Which he just happens to be stepping on the right time, and it's controlled by a fucking like what are those called when you're breaker board?
Yeah, it's a fuse box. Yeah,
a fuse box. Yeah.
You know, it's a very intricate stage, which all department stores have this intricate theater in.
You know what? It's been a while since I've been in a department store because of COVID, and I forgot.
Yeah. But again, this goes. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
So Jason wins the sword fight, and then the count pulls out a gun and he shoots Mr. James in the leg.
Yeah. And then again, no one's like, hey, shouldn't we stop that guy? He's committing crimes.
Yeah, and then he goes up to the roof with Jesse the mannequin, and like they get blocked from the like when Hollywood and Jason are following, they get blocked by the Germans at the elevator, but then the nerdy little security guard comes out of nowhere and sprays like, is it pepper spray? Is it hairspray? I don't know, but sprays it in their eyes.
It's hairspray.
Hairspray, okay.
Yeah.
And then that makes the perfume girl want to make out with him.
Well, because he took Hollywood's advice earlier in the movie, I assume, where he's like, look, she's not into you, man. Just ignore her. And, you know, then absence makes her heart grow fonder kind of thing. And then he's all like standing up and she's like, oh my gosh, he's amazing.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So then Jason and Hollywood run up the stairs, and the count was supposed to have a helicopter. Also, the count punches a bunch of people, but it's not like good punches. It's like it.
They're comedy punches where he's punching Mr. James in just like the nose, where it's just like boop.
Yeah, he like boops him on the nose, but then it like knocks him out. So they go up to the roof where there's supposed to be a helicopter, but instead there's a hot air balloon.
Yeah.
And they fight the third German, and then Jason gets like swings on the rope hanging off the hot air balloon as they're going up into the sky, and then there's kind of like a fight on the hot air balloon, and Jason's gonna throw off the count, but then he changes his mind, but then the count's like, fuck you, I'm gonna do that to you.
Yeah.
And then Jesse puts the necklace on the count.
Yeah, and then she says the same incantation, the curse, even though I don't think she would have heard the curse, but she gives him the curse.
Yeah. And they're like, yay, but then he falls out. The mannequin of him falls out.
Yeah.
And it smashes on the ground.
Well,
and
somehow the 3 Germans are down there on the street trying to catch him.
They try to catch him and they can't. And then they're like, we'll just put it back together. And then a street sweeper, like, sweeps him up.
Sweeps him up, yeah.
Like a person just got murdered. And then I think Jesse and Jason get married.
That's the implication, yes.
And then they drive off with Hollywood and a bunch of random people in his car.
Well, and this is what I was saying as well, because throughout that shot, the Mr. James's minions are like a couple now, and Perfume Girl and Security Guy are together. Like, everyone suddenly is together now and happier.
Yeah. It's so stupid.
I was gonna say, I did like, again, a good Hollywood joke when they're trying to break the door, because Terry Kaiser kind of wedges a bar, and then Hollywood goes like, years of dance has made the thighs strong, and he like kicks the door open.
That was pretty great. I mean, like, in this movie, Hollywood is the best character, hands down.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, Hollywood and the 3 German himbos.
Yeah.
But for different reasons. Hollywood is good because he's like well written and not well written, but probably the best written character in the movie, which isn't saying a lot. And the himbos are great because they are German himbos who wear 80s exercise gear.
Yep.
And that's the movie.
Yeah, there's a small coda where they have the mannequin and the count is now in that same spot in the castle. And it kind of pulls back, and there's the tour guide lady, and she's like, yeah, that's the legend of the count, but no one really believes it. And then they walk away. And I was like, wait a minute. If you're the same woman, you knew that there was an enchanted peasant girl statue, and now that there's a mannequin, like a count statue, like, you should be able to put two together. Shouldn't you have an existential crisis about something?
Wait, don't be silly, Dan. That's obviously her twin.
Yeah, maybe, yes.
Okay. So, what are your thoughts about this movie?
Well, I mean, again, despite the Born Sexy Yesterday, as you spoke of, Kristy Swanson is fun in the movie, and she's having a good time just being this peasant girl in America. But it's, like I said, it's kind of lazy in that. I didn't like her hair, but then when she got it styled, it was nice, and I was like, all right, now you're on the right track there.
Her hair looked like bad extensions.
Like, yeah, because like it's like on the side it only goes down to just below her shoulder, but then like her back hair goes all the way down to like her butt.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, I didn't notice that. And then I was like, what is going on there?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think some of the stuff I highlighted is just like, yeah, like, why would the account assume that the peasant girl would love him? No explanation for that. And also, yeah, the count's just doing crimes and no one's like stopping him and questioning anything that he's doing.
Diplomatic immunity.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, like there's like, everyone's seen Lethal Weapon 2. It's fine. And yeah, I didn't like how long it takes Jason to twig that the necklace is the cause of this curse, which is vaguely defined about like, why does it work on Hollywood? And I mean, they do the same incantation, but like, why would it work again on Terry Kaiser?
Yeah.
Because it's like, yeah, anyway. I don't know. I don't know how I'd react if I saw a mannequin come to life and then she wasn't alive again.
That's fair.
I can't determine that fact.
I also feel like Hollywood should have caught on to what was going on sooner, since like he's the same Hollywood from Mannequin 1, so he knows mannequins can come to life.
Yeah, which he does say. He's like, oh, I've seen this happen before, and like strange things have happened. He has a couple lines about it, and you're like, okay, yeah, like you said, he should have twigged on it a little quicker as well. Well, and it's kind of weird because when he puts on the necklace and the Germans take it off of him and he falls to the ground, and then he's talking about how like he was, you know, on the Olympic Road and this and that. Like, it's like, was he in another realm, or like was he just unconscious? He seems to know that something weird happened to him.
He did just like a bunch of party drugs earlier that day.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Whereas when Kristy Swanson wakes up, she's just like immediately like, okay, not that, hey, I've been asleep for 1,000 years.
Yeah. So, I don't know, did I say this already? I think I mentioned it before we started podcasting.
Yeah.
But I feel like this movie, everything that Mannequin did right, this movie did wrong.
Hmm.
And I feel like everything that Mannequin, the first one, did wrong, this movie also did wrong, but worse.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, there was just no fun scene of them together, either doing a dress-up montage or doing something. Like the only scene of them together doing something is like when they go for the chili cheesesteak, and then she's just eating the wrapper, classic. They go to the club, They have a good time. But then there's no scene of them again doing something fun in the movie. Then it's just like bang, 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 get to the end.
Also, I feel like parts of the reason why Mannequin 1 works in its own way is that it's like a very small focus. Like it's just Emmy and Jonathan Switcher in the store alone together at night. And like, of course, there's like Felix the security guard, and like there's other like little conflicts coming up, but like this one, there's so many characters. There's so many characters that don't even need to be in the movie. There's so much happening. But then if there wasn't those things happening, like there would be no movie because the plot's really thin.
Yeah, like nothing would be happening. Well, and it's like I said, this is my main problem with the Count Spretzel motivation, where it's like, okay, I could get it that he's like, I want to get the mannequin and the jewels out of the country, but then it's like they could just come to a compromise and be like, oh, okay, you get Jesse, I'll take all the jewels and leave, right? Like,
yeah, I'm gonna go to like, Bermuda with my 3 himbos.
Yeah, like there's technically no conflict there aside from because he's like, no, she's gonna come with for no reason.
Yeah. I also feel like they toned down Hollywood's gayness.
Right, he's not as flamboyant, I guess would be the word.
No, I think he's still flamboyant, but in the first one, he like mentions specifically that he has a boyfriend, and in this one, they make no reference to him having a boyfriend, so it kind of feels like a step backwards, even though Hollywood's not like great representation anyways, because it's kind of like a caricature of a caricature. In the first one, they at least had a gay character who was out and who most people treated with respect. And in this one, it feels like a step backwards because he's not as out.
Oh, interesting.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I can see what you're saying.
Because it feels more like a queer-coded character rather than like an actual queer character, because they don't actually... Like, even though in the first one you don't see him with his boyfriend, he does mention that he has a boyfriend like several times and that, you know, they're fighting and stuff. But in this one, they kind of erase that and they just kind of make him flamboyant.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, and he mentions about how he has like mementos from previous boyfriends or lovers and this and that. But like you said, there's no current like relationship with him. Even though
he also doesn't really say boyfriends. He says like lovers, doesn't he? Right. Or like partners, right?
Maybe. I can't remember the exact lining. But I agree with what you're saying, that it's like, even if it was in the previous movie, it was off screen, it was still mentioned.
It was still mentioned. And this one, they kind of take that away, which, you know, probably like just indicative of the times and stuff. But
sure.
Like, I'm pretty sure 1991 was like peak AIDS crisis, right?
I'm unsure, sorry.
I think that was around the time when Princess Diana shook the dude who had AIDS hand. Right. And it was a really big deal. I don't know if do you remember that at all?
Well, I do. I mean, it was mentioned in the Diana series that You're Wrong About did.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But I don't remember.
Crown, I know this is off topic again, but like in The Crown, they made it like a kid with AIDS instead of like a man with AIDS, which I thought was kind of shitty of them.
Yeah, why would they even do that?
Yeah, like, oh, this kid was born with AIDS, and it's like, no, just like tell the actual story, like, dicks.
Talking about the history stuff being altered, right?
Yeah.
Like, why are you even doing this?
Just say what happened.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was wondering about that when I was watching it, if like they toned down the like not toned down, like, 'cause he was still super flamboyant, but they toned down the like specific mention of Hollywood being gay because of AIDS crisis.
Yeah, possible. Also, I don't know if you're aware about this. The actor Meshach Taylor, he apparently is like, he's heterosexual, has a wife and children.
Oh yeah, that's fine.
Like he was kind of famous in this period for playing these characters, but he was just playing a character. He was just an actor.
Yeah, well, there's a ton of like gay characters that are played by straight actors, right?
Sure, of course, yes. But it's just, I guess,
I mean, like,
nowadays, it's a different lens, right?
Totally. I mean, like, what's it called? Birdcage is like still seen as like one of the best like queer culture movies, and it starred Robin Williams.
Right.
Who was straight, I should say.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. Like that was a product of the time. It's not great, but it's also like, like, I don't know. It was just the 90s.
Yeah, fair enough.
But I don't know. It bothered me a little bit that in like 87, they're like, yeah, we are comfortable saying this character has a boyfriend. In 1991, they're like, maybe we should say lover. Maybe we should say ex.
Well, and maybe again, because this was made potentially by different people, so they were kind of like, they had a different idea about it and didn't want to do that. Yeah,
that's fair. But it does seem like they took a few steps back, right? Like they went from having the main female character be like competent and a complete character to being kind of like just a sexy girl who didn't know what was going on.
Yeah, and also immediately in love with the guy. There was no like, maybe not.
No, immediately like, yeah, we're in love now.
Yeah.
And then they took the queer character who had a boyfriend, and then they made him into just kind of a queer-coded character. So.
Well, and also I wanted to mention, because I thought this was kind of interesting, is that the budget was $13 million for this movie.
Oh, and where did that money go?
Well, here's the thing. So, box office wise, it was a bomb. It only did $3.75 million. Did not do well. And the movie was released by Gladden Entertainment. I don't know if you remember that logo at the start.
Yeah.
And this was the last movie that they made because the two partners that started Gladden Entertainment were both investigated and like arrested for embezzling money from like people. So you got to imagine they probably embezzled some money from this film.
Yeah. Yeah, they did.
Yeah, because like you said, I mean, for that kind of, that's like almost not double, but it's definitely a step up budget wise from the previous movie, even though it's made, 5 years later or whatever. But like, yeah, the movie does not look that expensive.
How much is Well, you know what? After I watched it, I showed Tony and Peter the trailer for Mannequin 1 because they hadn't seen it. And they were like, wow, that one actually looks like a movie instead of a made-for-TV movie.
Yeah.
But I wonder how much is $13 million in 1991 money? How much is that in today money? I'm going to look this up.
Sure, I'll say I could do it, as well. But so anyway, that was kind of an interesting kind of situation with that company and with the production of the movie. So that, yeah, it was bad. And of course, if you want to talk about white collar crime stuff, the one of the partners guys ended up committing suicide, but the other guy eventually was convicted and went to jail. He got 13 months in prison, and he had stolen more than $250 million over a decade. And it's like, oh yeah, so that's some justice there, right? $
13 million in 1991 money is worth $25,483,000 $89,735.
All right. Yeah.
It's a $25 million movie in today's money.
Which, not a lot, but again.
Not a lot, but it is a lot. But
yeah, it's still a good chunk of money.
This movie would not be made now. Like, Mannequin 1 wouldn't have been made now, but, like, I was trying to think of what Mannequin would look like in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it would either be a horror movie, like a Blumhouse horror movie, or it would be a weird indie movie where at the end of it, you're not sure if the mannequin is real or not, but the point of the story is that the dude found love.
Yeah, well, I was literally about to say that, but that was also kind of, like I talked about the last time, the concept of the first one initially was an older shop worker with the mannequin, right?
Oh, yeah.
Until they had that young actor come on board, so they switched it. But it's like, you could definitely do that now, because that's what I was gonna say. It's like, okay, but what if you wanted to do the romance angle of the movie? It
would end up being like I'm thinking of ending things where it was like super disjointed, and like at the end you realize that like nothing that happens in the movie mattered because it was all in his head. Right.
Well, and I was gonna say, or you do a gender swap of it, right? And you do a male mannequin of some sort.
Oh, yeah. And have him like wake up and immediately be in love with the woman who made him.
I wasn't even thinking of going that far, but sure.
And then she's like, I'm gay. And then they make a TikTok account. Yeah, I don't know how Mannequin would look if it was made in 2021, but I do think that a gender swap would be one thing. You know what? If it was gender swapped, it would be starring Rebel Wilson as the female lead, and it would be like a very like that self-aware kind of like train wreck, or like knocked up type humor. I feel like.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or, like I said, it would be a very artsy indie movie where you're not sure if anything that you just watched is real or not.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Or it would be a Blumhouse horror movie where, like, a dude is working in a department store at night and he thinks it's a sexy lady at first, and then it turns out that she's, I don't know, turning everyone into mannequins because she's secretly Satan and some other shit. I don't know.
I feel like, I haven't looked this up, but there probably already is mannequin-based horror movie out there.
That's a good point. I don't think, though, that it would be like an 8-part miniseries on HBO.
Probably not, unfortunately, because that's what we need right now.
I know, we do need more Mannequin in the world. If you were remaking the original Mannequin, who would you recast as the people?
Oh man, I don't even know. Like, I'm not into the who's young and hip right now.
Well, you can pick anybody who's been young and hip for the last 20 years. I'll give you that bubble.
You know what you could do? I mean, again, maybe not. It would totally work. You could recast Kim Cattrall.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, bring her back, and you could either do some movies where it's a sequel and sort of ignores some parts of other things, and she could be like, she didn't stay with Jonathan Switcher. It's an alternate timeline.
Yes. Also, we can recast James Spader.
Yes, exactly. You could bring James Spader back. You could bring Kim Cattrall back, and then we get a new leading man person here. I don't even know. And then, yeah, you could kind of do a thing where, because the department stores aren't as big of a thing, so maybe now she's in another location in a museum or something.
Oh, Night at the Museum.
Yeah,
Mannequin.
Exactly. Mannequin 2, Night at the Museum.
I feel like you can't really have like a smoldering actor to play the Jonathan Switcher character. Like, I feel like you need like a fun-loving dude.
Right.
Like, I don't think like as much as I love Tom Hiddleston, I don't think he'd be the right choice. I feel like you need someone like more like, I guess, like Tom Holland. I don't know. I'm just thinking of Marvel now.
Well, I would say, yeah, you need someone to bring like almost like a Jack Black type energy to it.
Yes, we need a Jack Black type.
Yeah.
I love this.
Just, yeah, you need someone with like just kind of a little more of an energy with it.
Or go the opposite route and get like Bill Hader.
Right? Yeah, yeah.
He would be good because I feel like he does like deadpan shock pretty good. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
There we go. We've recasted it as the exact same class plus Bill Hader.
Yeah. No, it's tough because, like I said, I think, like we spoke about previously, is these kind of movies could still be made and stuff like that, but they're usually made more direct for a streaming service like a Netflix or Amazon or whatever, and that's fine. But it's just kind of like, yeah, how much are you going to put into this and to make it look good?
I kind of disagree with that statement a bit.
Oh, okay.
Because I do feel like they make a lot of movies now. However, I feel like when they're making movies, they're thinking a lot more about their demographic. So you don't get a kind of, like if it's a family movie, it's like a Disney Channel family movie.
Mm-hmm.
But, so there would be like kid characters in it. And they would probably be the main focus. But I feel like this movie, like Mannequin and Mannequin 2, Mannequin on the Move, they are not specifically meant for adults, but they're not specifically meant for children either. They're kind of a weird middle ground where you could be a child watching this movie, but like there's no children characters for you to identify with either. Right. So I feel like they wouldn't make it because it's not a specific amount, a specific enough demographic for films today. I think if they were going to make it, it would either be everybody would be aged down so that there's like children or teenagers as main character, or everybody, like the humor would be a lot more adult and there'd be a lot more sex scenes or boobies in it.
Fair enough.
And butts. There'd just be so many butts. Like, I feel like there'd be a lot more adult jokes because in both Mannequin and Mannequin 2, you don't get, like, smutty humor.
Right.
And you don't get, like, dark humor either.
Well, and I think, again, just like we talked about previously in the era, like, when Mannequin 1 came out, there was less entertainment options. In 91, of course, you're starting to get a little more expansion in that. So it's like, because like this movie came out in, like I said, so it came out May 17, 91, which was the same weekend like What About Bob came out that weekend. And then there was something else in the previous weekend, I looked it up, that was like massive movie. So it's just like, it got buried. Nowadays with all of the entertainment options, that it's just a different marketplace, right? And like, that's exactly what you're saying, is that it'd be more designed. Whereas these were more just like, well, just making the movie and whoever just sees it goes and sees it. And it's like, you can't, that's not how it works anymore.
No, totally. Yeah, that's why I think that like this exact movie couldn't get made. It would be more focused on a specific group.
Right.
Also, I like that it doesn't have a specific demographic. There's something kind of charming and wholesome about these movies because like, it's kind of like a child's version of what adult life is like, almost.
Sure. Well, and our main characters in both movies are pretty like childlike. They're
just for sure.
Immature.
Yeah.
Like you said, they are the manic pixie dream boys.
they really are. Like, I want to say especially Jonathan, but like both of them are, right?
Yeah.
I love that Jonathan Switcher can't hold a job and we get a montage of him being fired.
Yeah, exactly. And it was those kind of charming, fun bits that this movie On the Move lacked, like for both when they're together or just when they're just separately doing stuff.
Yeah, also I feel like the actor that played Jason, that I would not let him hold my drink at a party, if he'd get my drift.
Fair enough.
just something behind those eyes that I do not trust.
Well, it's interesting because IMDb trivia, but it's like he was in either the original Fright Night, like he was in a Fright Night movie, maybe the sequel, and so like before this movie, so he was like Monster Hunter guy, and then he's doing like a rom-com, and then of course Kristy Swanson went on to be Buffy.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's where she's from.
I know. Actually, when I was watching it the whole time as well, I was like, where else have I seen her before? Like, I knew her name. I had heard and I'd seen her. Of course, she's younger in this. And then I was just like, oh, yeah, she was Buffy.
Is she like a model before she acted?
I don't know. I didn't really kind of look that up. I mean, you could see it. She's
a very pretty person.
Yeah, that's
like, girl, right? Like,
very,
yeah. She's very. I just love her little outfit when she's wearing that mini dress and the like oversized leather jacket. I just think it's super cute, and she looks like the nicest babysitter.
Yeah.
That's a movie we should review, Dan.
What?
Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead.
Oh man, I don't even know if I've seen that. I must have seen that ages ago.
Oh my god, it's so good.
Or maybe I'm confusing it with the Adventures in Babysitting.
Yeah, that's a different movie.
I know it is a different movie, but I just mean, like...
Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead starred the daughter from Married with Children.
Oh, yeah.
What's her name? Christina Applegate? No?
Yeah.
Yeah. It starred her, and she becomes, like... their babysitter dies. And she has to get a job, and she becomes like the CEO of a fashion company in it. And she's like 15.
Nice.
It was a good film.
Sounds like some high quality art for sure.
Obviously. I only watch very highbrow things.
Yeah.
I guess we should wrap it up because we've been yakking about this for a while now.
Sure. I mean, I think final thoughts overall, the first Mannequin was an enjoyable, fun time. Like you were talking about just earlier that, there was something charming about it. There was something fun about it. This one, unfortunately, doesn't really live up to the bar and doesn't have as much fun in the movie or with the concept.
You know, I will say this about the movie. I feel like if I had seen Mannequin 1 and 2 as a kid, I probably would have preferred the second one.
Right.
As like a 5-year-old or 6-year-old. But that being said, yeah, Mannequin is a superior movie. These two movies don't feel like they even take place in the same universe, but we know they do because Hollywood's in both of them. Mm-hmm. And I guess, you know, if you want to watch something weird and like really see how far cinema has come, maybe throw it on.
Yeah, I mean, again, I didn't like hate my time watching it, and it's pretty short. It's like an hour 35, I think, or something like that kind of thing, right? So it's not a big epic.
No, it is pretty. It's funny too because like it's an hour and 30 minutes, but like there's a lot they could have trimmed out of it. There's a lot of padding in this movie.
Yeah, and there's just a lot of weird stuff where it's like we didn't really mention it, but like the scene where the Count arrives in America, and like for some reason the store employees are there to greet him. Like, why?
Yeah, why? And then it had the weird gag of like a normal plane, and then his like tiny plane flies in front of it.
Yeah. So it's just stuff like that where you're just like, what? Why?
You're like, why is this in the movie? Why would this happen? What's going on?
Yeah.
But the German himbos are great.
Yeah, they really strip down in the street. And you're just like, what?
They just strip down to their underwear.
Yeah.
Well, two of them. One of them stays fully clothed.
Right.
They start dancing until a dump truck with ladies pick them up and put them in the trash. Because
that's the likely scenario.
And then they're like, we better get new clothes. And they get like the most ridiculous. Oh my God. I don't even know.
It's good time.
Broke my brain, Dan.
Yeah, that's fair.
Maybe it's just way too smart for me. Maybe I just didn't get it.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I think despite the 4 to 5 writers, they really didn't scrutinize the script all that much.
Yeah, I want to say that there was an additional writer, and that additional writer was cocaine.
Or they basically would get onto the shooting day and then be like, oh, that's not what my character would say, and then just improv everything.
Yeah, the whole movie's just improv. Slowly, like, stitched together with bad editing.
Yeah.
So good. So very good.
Yeah.
Okay, let's wrap up.
Sure thing.
If you would like to follow us on Instagram, it's Tome of Uselessness. We're also on a website, tomeofuselessness.com, or you can email us your ideas, not our ideas, because those are in our heads, tomeofuselessness@gmail.com. Also, I forgot to say this earlier, but I want to shout out to Charlene because we were chatting through Instagram specifically about Mannequin 2, as well as some other crazy early 90s movies that we should maybe review at some point.
Nice.
So, hi, Charlene.
Hello.
Yeah, that's it. That's all I got.
Yeah, as always, thanks for listening and stay safe.
Bye.